Long before mammals dominated the land and the continents assumed their familiar shapes, the oceans were a world of unrivaled danger. These waters were not simply habitats. They were battlegrounds where survival was a constant, unrelenting struggle. In these ancient seas, the creatures that ruled were larger, more fearsome, and more dangerous than anything that swims today. The oceans of the distant past stretched far wider than they do today, covering much more of the Earth's surface. The tides were stronger, influenced by the pull of a younger moon, and the waters were warm and nutrient-rich, creating an environment teeming with life. But that abundance didn't bring peace. It actually stimulated fierce competition, which led to evolution and the birth of some of the scariest things on Earth. In this world, the oceans were big and remote. The seas were endless. Their depths were darker and mystery, as we cannot imagine them now. The waters were unsettling, far apart from the cool blue of our shores, and life lived there only on the condition that there be adaptation and survival. When it was, the world was a different world. The sun burned hotter than now. The air was wet. The continents were just getting in shape. Under that hot sun, swirling sky, the seas were in motion. In this hostile environment, the giants of the deep ruled to the absolute whim. Their great size was enough to intimidate even the most difficult of animals, but much more than just that. They had evolved into perfect predators. Jaws strong enough to eat flesh, teeth that could chew through layers of armor, eyes sufficiently tuned to function in the ever-present darkness of the depths. Every inch of their build was specially designed for one purpose: dominance. Everything was plentiful in these waters, but the abundance did come with a price. No, it wasn't a beautiful world. It was an arena of hell where everything was just as much a competition of survival as anything else. Scavenger even had weaponry that could annihilate him: teeth, claws, speed, things learned over generations. Under all the iridescent coral gardens, glowing in inky hues that nothing human eyes have ever seen, predators were far more dangerous than any the conventional sea has. The vast open waters offered no protection. Even the shallows, once thought safe by humans, were full of hunters who stood there silently waiting for the perfect moment. The rules of survival were pretty clear: grow faster, grow stronger, adapt, or get eaten by those who did. The creatures of the Mesozoic era, roughly 252 to 66 million years ago, evolved from a harsh and unforgiving environment. Some of them ran inexorably fast, while others lie still in the same way that does them no harm. Some towered above the waves, their mere presence enough to darken the waters beneath. Others prowled the depths, unseen, until it was too late. Today's oceans still hold dangers, but when compared to the ancient seas, they are but a pale reflection of what once was. As we step closer to that lost world, we leave behind the familiar. We descend into an ocean that did not forgive, an ocean that crafted monsters and demanded the very best of those who dared to swim in its depths. The story begins not with a single creature, but with a kingdom. A kingdom ruled by terror, by evolution, and by the relentless will of the deep. Deinosuchus riograndensis was one of the largest and most formidable crocodilian predators to have ever existed. Living approximately 82 to 73 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period, it belonged to the family Alligatoroidea, a group that would eventually give rise to modern alligators and caimans. Although related to today's crocodilians, Deinosuchus represented a much earlier and more massive branch of the evolutionary tree. At an impressive length of up to 10 meters, about 35 feet, and weighing approximately 7 tons, Deinosuchus was far larger than any existing aquatic crocodile. Its sheer size made it one of the largest aquatic predators in history. Fossil evidence shows that Deinosuchus thrived in a wide variety of habitats, ranging from freshwater rivers and estuaries to coastal plains, across regions that spanned from present-day Montana to northern Mexico. The anatomy of this genus is quite similar to modern crocodiles, but the animal was incredibly large. Its skull alone could extend to almost 1.8 meters, about 6.5 feet. Deinosuchus had long, fierce, conical teeth that were lined up against its jawline. These teeth could be up to 15 centimeters, about 6 inches long. Instead of cutting through flesh, they were designed to crush and grip bone, and are thought to have been powerful enough to crush great bones of prey easily. The bite force of Deinosuchus is thought to have been an awful lot greater than what modern crocodiles have been estimated to have exerted. Estimates are as high as 18,000 pounds per square inch, which may have even exceeded the bite force of giant Tyrannosaurus rex. In fact, partially healed bite marks found on the bones of a tyrannosaur in North America match this giant croc's teeth, suggesting Deinosuchus could go toe-to-toe with even the most formidable of dinosaurs. The evidence suggests that as an ambush predator, Deinosuchus would have followed the pattern of passive patience and surprise. As with today's crocodile, it would stay submerged and monitor the water around it in such a way as to allow its eyes and nostrils only to be seen. Then, silently watching its surroundings, it would look from completely submerged, like a crocodile, and wait quietly for prey, often dinosaurs attempting to drink from a river, and then strike hard and fast. It would quickly open its jaws and punch through a prey carcass to cut it open and kill the animal as fast as it could. Fossil dinosaur bones with large holes punctured with the gigantic jaws of his predecessors suggest a predator like this might have succeeded in only one bite. This, coupled with its massive size and banana-sized teeth, made it a formidable hunter capable of taking down even large dinosaurs. Although it is known as a feared dinosaur predator, this animal did not only have a limited diet that could be eaten alone, and therefore would likely include fish, turtles, different aquatic reptiles, and carcasses as well. This was important as indeed one can find organisms of this type that will thrive in various types of environments and will eat whatever animals are available that are in abundance. Among the fossils of Deinosuchus, the abundance indicates it was extremely adaptable, capable of living in different aquatic environments and adapting to different environmental conditions. Since it would have been an apex predator, its behavior and migration patterns would have influenced other herbivorous dinosaurs and other large animals. Similarly to modern crocodiles, it would have been one of the dominant species of that ecosystem. It is no longer possible to determine the ecological reasons for the extinction of Deinosuchus, but it is probable that extinction was caused by changes in environmental conditions, such as environmental changes in the aquatic habitat it had lived in, or possibly climate change. Whatever the species' reasons may have been, extinction of Deinosuchus marked the end of one of the most successful large aquatic predators of the late Cretaceous. Today, the fossil remains of Deinosuchus provide valuable insights into the diversity and complexity of prehistoric life. Its immense size, incredible bite force, and ecological impact solidify its place as one of the greatest crocodilian predators in Earth's history. Deinosuchus remains a testament to the evolutionary success of crocodilians, a lineage that has survived for over 200 million years and continues to endure in modern forms. In the prehistoric life, Deinosuchus played its role to perfection. It remains, even now, one of the greatest predators to have ever lived. An apex predator that was undoubtedly the crocodile king of the ancient world. Meanwhile, the Mesozoic oceans were ruled by a host of ancient creatures, but none more recognizable than the Plesiosaurs. Instantly recognizable with their long, serpentine necks and powerful flippers, these ancient reptiles weren't just the stuff of legend. They were real, and they were among the most formidable predators the ancient seas had ever seen. Plesiosaurs had a look like no other. Tiny heads perched atop impossibly long necks, solid, rounded bodies, and 4 massive paddle-like limbs. This unusual design wasn't just for show. It gave them incredible agility in the water, allowing them to twist, turn, and strike with lightning precision. That iconic neck wasn't just an oddity. It was their secret weapon, a crucial tool that helped them dominate their world. Plesiosaurs varied greatly in size, with some species reaching lengths of 50 feet, about 15 meters. The average plesiosaur, like Plesiosaurus, was around 3 to 5 meters, about 10 to 16 feet in length. Among all these marine killers, there is one called Elasmosaurus. Imagine, for example, a creature with a neck that could stretch out as much as 10 times longer than its body. That seems impossible to believe, but the truth was that for Elasmosaurus, it really was. Because it was able to cover very little ground with its long neck, and thus it could fly over the water snapping fish and squid, and not even move the bulk of its large body, sneaking quiet and with a low profile, and then snap, hitting a target from a short distance with exquisite precision. While technically small, they made good hunters. They had long, muscular bodies and short tails that only gave them limited speed. This wasn't a problem. What mattered was the power behind their limbs, the powerful paddles that drove them forward in powerful, rhythmic motions. For decades, myths about the Loch Ness Monster have cultivated popular imagination and keep plesiosaurs on the map. But the facts about these prehistoric reptiles are even more exciting and scary than any myth ever was. Plesiosaurs weren't slow, wrinkled monsters. They were an almost sharp machine that is fast, agile, and deadly. They were a great example of evolution in action. Instead of running and shooting at prey at long distances, plesiosaurs used camouflage and surprise to catch its prey. Their long necks allowed them to hide behind the bulk of their body as they sneaked their tiny heads a little bit closer to the unsuspecting fish. A quick lunge would give them a few seconds to drag it up the stream before it knew it was them. Unlike dolphins or wolves, which hunt in packs, plesiosaurs were solitary hunters. Out in the open sea where the prey was far away and difficult to find, they had to rely on their own abilities. The long necks gave them huge advantage to look around from afar looking for prey, and the strong paddles kept them swimming and quiet looking for prey in a second and firing right away. Even their small tails. While other marine reptiles used their tails for speed, plesiosaurs used their tails more as rudders to move their body just fine while hunting. All that power was down to those long paddles and their cleverly calculated use of them. Because when it comes to diet, plesiosaurs were not very picky. Small fish, squid, and clams, even smaller marine reptiles were fine. Anything soft-bodied and easily accessible. Their sharp, delicate teeth were perfect for snagging slippery prey, not for crushing bones, and their hunting grounds ranged from shallow coastal waters to the deep open ocean, wherever the food led them. In truth, plesiosaurs were nothing like the lumbering monsters of folklore. They were masters of their environment, quick, silent, and devastatingly precise. Their bizarre anatomy wasn't a disadvantage. It was a finely tuned adaptation that made them some of the deadliest predators to ever swim the Earth's oceans. The mastery of adaptation wasn't limited to plesiosaurs. Another ancient predator, Tanystropheus, an ancient reptile from the Triassic period, from approximately 248 to 234 million years ago, was also exemplified evolutionary ingenuity. Unlike the slow-moving giants often depicted in popular imagination, Tanystropheus redefined the traits of a long-necked reptile, showcasing swift, lethal efficiency in its aquatic and terrestrial habitats. It was no lumbering giant of legend, but a swift, opportunistic predator, armed with a suite of specialized adaptations that perfectly suited its ancient environment. Its story is one of evolutionary brilliance. The long neck, far from being a vulnerability, became a precise weapon for delivering sudden, lethal strikes. Combined with impressive aquatic abilities, Tanystropheus thrived as a cunning hunter, equally capable in shallow seas and across broader oceanic stretches. Tanystropheus belonged to the family Tanystrophidae, a group of reptiles distinguished by their astonishingly elongated necks. This family fell within the Archosauromorph clade, a major lineage of early reptiles closely related to modern crocodiles, birds, and dinosaurs. Alongside other unusual long-necked reptiles like Langobardosaurus and Eudomorphodon, Tanystropheus stands as a testament to the bold evolutionary experiments of the Triassic, a period teeming with reptilian diversity. Perhaps its most powerful feature was its unique neck, which in some species can grow up to 10 times the length of the body. Probably this adaptation developed to meet the effects of the changing environmental conditions and provide Tanystropheus with access to prey that was unaffordable for other predators at that time. The repeated evolution of long necks among its relatives may only highlight the fierce competition and inventive survival strategies that shaped Triassic ecosystems. But Tanystropheus was also a much more complex reptile. The neck being attached to the legs by a series of very specific vertebrae, it could be both flexible and balanced enough so that it could strike at its prey fast and as precisely as possible, without moving all that much while its head whirled out of the way as it tried to catch him. A great trick for both ambush and active hunting. The short, slender body and short legs indicated that this species may have lived in the water for some time, but didn't seem to have evolved to swim in the way crocodiles do. Some early ideas suggested that Tanystropheus might have done its swimming like those of modern crocodiles by using the body and tail to make powerful up and down movements. Sooner, however, it seems likely that Tanystropheus would have swum just like frogs, by using its strong hind limbs to propel itself through the water. Perhaps due to its weird proportions, Tanystropheus was also able to swim well. It had little chance of being able to swim long distances with traditional hands, but it was capable of using strong hind legs and, probably, its tail to provide effective bursts of speed, and it even became a successful predator in various marine environments. The evolution of Tanystropheus' diet has been a great deal of an issue and debate for years. But recent fossils in particular lend support to the idea that it was a prey primarily piscivorous, feeding on fish and cephalopods. The newly discovered fossils point to conical-shaped jaws that held fast to slippery prey when used to scoop it up. Deeper in the jaw, it has 3 tooth-like curves that may have had tooth-to-tooth contacts for gripping larger prey, like squid. In addition, they suggest that as it got bigger, its diet changed accordingly. By contrast, children appeared to focus on small prey, while adults took on large prey, something that only happens when one is opportunistic. Particularly important is that Tanystropheus did not restrict itself to hunting in deep water. Its ability to exploit different food sources speaks to its success within its habitat. For a long time, scientists debated whether Tanystropheus was primarily terrestrial or aquatic. Early interpretations leaned toward a land-dwelling lifestyle, citing limb structure and neck mobility as evidence. Some suggested it might have hunted like certain modern reptiles, using an S-shaped neck posture to scan for prey, while keeping its body ready to pounce. However, more recent anatomical studies argue convincingly for a semi-aquatic existence. Strong hind legs and specific tail features indicate that while Tanystropheus could move on land, it likely spent much of its time in shallow coastal waters. It may have hunted in submerged vegetation or along muddy shorelines, behaving much like today's herons or crocodiles. This semi-aquatic lifestyle would have granted it access to a wide range of prey, both aquatic and terrestrial, making it an adaptable and formidable predator. Ultimately, Tanystropheus was not just another prehistoric oddity, but a master of survival, a specialist whose evolutionary innovations allowed it to dominate both land and sea. With its long neck, powerful limbs, and adaptable hunting strategies, it carved out a unique place in the Triassic world. Far from the monstrous myths, it was a creature of evolutionary precision, using ambush tactics and opportunistic feeding with deadly effectiveness. Tanystropheus remains a stunning example of nature's creativity, reminding us that real prehistoric life was often far stranger. As life continued to experiment with form and function, the oceans became a new stage for some of the most remarkable evolutionary success stories. In the ancient seas of the Mesozoic era, a new kind of predator ruled the waters. It was not a fish, nor a reptile in the traditional sense, but something in between. Ichthyosaurs, whose name means fish lizards, were marine reptiles that embodied the perfect fusion of reptilian resilience and aquatic efficiency. Their sleek, streamlined bodies bore a striking resemblance to modern dolphins, an astonishing example of convergent evolution, where unrelated species develop similar features to adapt to similar environments. Yet, while dolphins are relatively gentle, ichthyosaurs were designed for a different purpose: to dominate. Emerging from terrestrial ancestors, ichthyosaurs took to the oceans and never looked back. Over millions of years, their bodies evolved for speed and endurance. A long, narrow snout, filled with sharp, conical teeth, allowed them to snatch slippery prey with precision. Their powerful tails, shaped like vertical crescent moons, provided explosive thrusts, making them among the fastest creatures in their ecosystem. Their paddled limbs, no longer useful for walking, were modified into efficient steering instruments, allowing them to slice through the waters with graceful, deadly agility. Ichthyosaurs were apex predators, but they weren't always solitary hunters. Evidence suggests that at least some species exhibited group behavior, traveling and possibly hunting in packs. This social dynamic would have given them a strategic advantage over larger or more elusive prey. Working together, they could herd fish into tight clusters, isolate weak individuals, or even coordinate attacks on larger marine reptiles. Such behavior, rare in reptiles today, points to a level of intelligence and social complexity that made ichthyosaurs truly formidable. Ichthyosaurs varied greatly in size, ranging from about 2 to 4 meters, about 6.6 to 13.1 feet on average, with some species reaching lengths of 15 meters, around 49 feet or more. The largest known ichthyosaur, Ichthyotitan severnensis, is estimated to have been around 25 meters, about 82 feet long. Not all ichthyosaurs were created equal. Some were quite small, adapted for chasing fish and squid in rapid bursts. Others reached huge dimensions, easily outcompeting modern-day largest sea mammals. These giants, although slower than their smaller relatives, possessed jaws strong enough to confront large prey, even other sea reptiles. Their sheer size would have dissuaded most potential attackers, and in open oceans, size frequently equated to survival. Part of a line that emerged early in the Triassic, ichthyosaurs diversified quickly, occupying a range of niches in the oceans. Some developed to specialize in small, swift prey, while others evolved to crack up hard-shelled animals like ammonites. This versatility enabled them to inhabit the entire world, ruling the oceans for tens of millions of years. Their sensory capacities were equal to their physical strength. They are known for having remarkably large eyes, potentially reaching a diameter of up to 30 centimeters. These large eyes likely evolved to aid in their underwater lifestyle, allowing them to see in low light conditions and maintain high visual acuity, particularly in deeper, darker waters. Breathing air like contemporary whales and dolphins, ichthyosaurs needed to surface frequently. Yet their respiratory efficiency enabled them to remain underwater for extended periods, and some species probably made deep dives in pursuit of food. Their lungs were specialized for rapid, efficient gas exchange, keeping them at the surface for as little time as possible, and spending as much time as possible hunting below. Despite being formidable, ichthyosaurs were not indestructible. Juveniles were susceptible to predators, including those of their own species. There is some fossil evidence to suggest violent conflicts, with bite marks indicating combat, either for supremacy, territory, or food. In the ruthless aquatic environment, survival was a matter of speed, power, and occasionally, pure aggression. Ichthyosaurs' reproductive tactics also emphasize their command of the marine ecosystem. Unlike most reptiles that ovipose on land, ichthyosaurs were viviparous, giving birth to live young, a necessary adaptation for a life fully spent at sea. Newborns would have been small replicas of their parents, ready to swim and survive right away. This viviparous method of reproduction meant they could never need to return to land, freeing ichthyosaurs to cruise the open seas unencumbered. Even with their dominance, ichthyosaurs did ultimately decline. Adapting marine environments, the emergence of new predators, and resource competition probably contributed. Still, for most of the Triassic and Jurassic, they ruled supreme, fast, smart, and completely deadly. They were not just animals of brute power, but of evolutionary elegance, beautifully honed to survive in a world of infinite blue. The ichthyosaur's tale is one of incessant innovation. Built for speed, like modern tuna, some ichthyosaurs appear also to have been deep divers, like some modern whales. It has been estimated that ichthyosaurs could swim at speeds up to 40 kilometers per hour. Their legacy serves to remind us that evolution is indiscriminate. It rewards those able to adapt, and few adapted as well as the ichthyosaurs. They were designed for velocity, refined for the kill, and propelled by an unyielding will to survive. Today, their closest living comparisons are found in dolphins and whales, though the connection is distant. The similarities are a testament to how evolution repeatedly finds solutions to life's challenges. In the fast, ferocious world of the Mesozoic seas, the ichthyosaurs were kings, and their reign was one of speed, precision, and power. During the late Cretaceous period, the oceans were dominated by a new kind of apex predator, the Mosasaurs. These marine reptiles belonged to the family Mosasauridae, which evolved from semi-aquatic lizards, closely related to modern monitor lizards and snakes. Unlike earlier marine reptiles, which still showed some traces of their land-dwelling ancestors, Mosasaurs were fully adapted to life in the sea. Their long, streamlined bodies, powerful tails, and modified limbs that had evolved into flippers made them some of the most efficient predators of their time. Mosasaurs first appeared around 98 million years ago, quickly rising to the top of the marine food chain. They came in a variety of sizes, ranging from smaller species about 3 meters long to giants like Mosasaurus hoffmanni, which could reach lengths of up to 17 meters and weigh more than 15 tons. These massive creatures were not only large, but also surprisingly agile for their size, using strong, undulating movements of their tails to propel themselves swiftly through the water. Their hunting styles were diverse according to the species and size. Some mosasaurs were generalists, eating fish, squid, and ammonites, whereas others specialized in consuming larger prey, such as other marine reptiles. Their skull morphology demonstrates wide gape and extremely powerful bites adaptations. Unlike their earlier marine reptile relatives with fairly fragile jaws, mosasaurs possessed powerful skulls with deep-set teeth, curved and pointed to penetrate and hold slippery prey. Their jaws were double-hinged and loosely attached to their skulls, so they could open their mouths extremely wide and consume huge prey whole, much like today's snakes. Perhaps the most impressive characteristic of mosasaurs was their tremendous bite force. Although precise measurements differ according to species and specimen, some estimates are that the larger mosasaurs' bite forces likely dwarfed even that of the giant Tyrannosaurus rex. There are indications in certain studies that Mosasaurus hoffmannii may have been able to exert a bite force of up to 13,000 to 16,000 pounds per square inch, which is significantly stronger than the 2,500 PS I needed to crush a car, and therefore it would have been among the most effective biters of any marine predator in history. With such a killer bite, mosasaurs would have been capable of shattering the shells of armored prey, or killing large, flailing victims. The teeth of the mosasaurs also evolved to accommodate various types of prey. Most had pointed, conical teeth for grasping and clinging, but certain species possessed crushing teeth that were blunter for bashing into hard-shelled animals. All these variations of dental adaptations speak volumes about their diversified dominance across marine habitats, as well as in their prey options ranging from oceans to shallow coasts. Their sensory systems improved their hunting further. Mosasaurs possessed advanced olfactory organs, which could have potentially smelled prey from far away. They also possessed acute vision, specifically designed for the darker environments of deeper waters. Some paleontologists propose that mosasaurs used ambush strategies, waiting for unsuspecting prey, and then pouncing with sudden, devastating attacks. Others actively chased their prey, utilizing bursts of speed to blitz slower animals. Mosasaurs were not solitary predators out of necessity, but there is little evidence to indicate that some may have exhibited social behavior, perhaps hunting or scavenging in groups when necessary. Nevertheless, the most prevalent behavior appears to have been solitary ambush, or pursuit predation, using brute force, speed, and their powerful jaws to overwhelm prey. Although they were dominant, mosasaurs coexisted in the seas with other powerful animals such as plesiosaurs, sharks, and big predatory fish. There was stiff competition for food, and the mosasaurs had to diversify into niches. Some of them became longer, others more massive, and some had more specialized teeth according to their favored food. By the end of the Cretaceous, mosasaurs were among the undisputed rulers of the marine realm. Their evolution from land-dwelling lizards to gigantic marine reptiles stands as one of the most dramatic examples of adaptive radiation in reptilian history. Yet, like many giants of their era, their reign was abruptly ended by the mass extinction event 66 million years ago. Their disappearance marked the end of the age of marine reptiles, leaving behind only their fossilized remains to tell the story of their incredible power and dominance in ancient seas. In the late Eocene epoch, about 41 to 34 million years ago, a new apex predator patrolled the world's oceans, Basilosaurus. Despite its name meaning king lizard, Basilosaurus was not a reptile, but an early form of whale belonging to the family Basilosauridae. These ancient whales were fully aquatic mammals, far removed from their terrestrial ancestors who had only recently adapted to marine life. Basilosaurus represented one of the final stages of whale evolution before modern forms emerged. Unlike modern whales, it had a long serpentine body, reaching lengths of up to 18 meters, approximately 60 feet, and weighing an estimated 15 to 20 tons. Its elongated form and flexible spine allowed for undulating swimming motions, more similar to an eel than the powerful tail-driven propulsion seen in today's whales. Fossils suggest that Basilosaurus had little, useless hind legs, remnants of its terrestrial ancestor, but its actual means of prehension was by walking using its long tail and body bending. Speaking of the jaws, Basilosaurus has a jaw that was almost 1.5 meters long and had a tough arsenal of teeth, pointed incisors in front to catch food, and large serrated molars that were oriented toward the rear to cut flesh. That rife array of teeth allowed Basilosaurus to quickly capture and dismember its victims. Basilosaurus was a hypercarnivore, consuming about entirely meat. Its stomach contents have been found to contain remains of large fish and other marine mammals. This suggests that Basilosaurus was an apex predator, which feeds on very few natural predators. Our best guess is that it would have hunted both ambush and active pursuit, using its long, flexible body to creep up on prey, or make sudden and highly explosive attacks to grab the victim in its powerful jaws and shred them to pieces. One of the most important traits of Basilosaurus's feeding apparatus was its bite force. These are remarkably difficult to measure accurately, but reconstructions of its skull and jaw muscles suggest that Basilosaurus produced a wildly powerful bite force. Some estimates place the Basilosaurus bite force at around 3,600 pounds per square inch, allowing it to puncture bone and tear through large prey materials readily. While not as strong as the enormous bite forces of later giant sharks such as Megalodon, it was powerful and deadly in its species' environment. For its sense organs, Basilosaurus had fairly well-developed hearing that was especially appropriate for underwater environments. It did not have the very high echolocation abilities that live-toothed whales have, such as orcas and dolphins. Most likely, it relied on high-quality eyesight and low-frequency hearing to locate prey over long distances. It would have used its hunting tactics to be less dependent on subtle communication or sonar navigation than on stealth and velocity. Unlike some other recent whales, Basilosaurus was not a social animal. There is little fossil evidence that it lived or hunted in groups. It appears to have been an alone hunter, wandering across huge areas of ocean to look for prey. Its size and strength would make no man able to hold him, and the fossilized patterns of its bite marks suggest that even very large marine animals did not want to come close to it. Animals belonging to the genus Basilosaurus have been found in North America, including northern Africa and small parts of South America, consistent with the concept that their range reached a wide geographic area and could adapt to different marine habitats, from shallow coastal seawaters to deep offshore waters. Ultimately, Basilosaurus marked an important chapter in the evolutionary history of marine mammals. It demonstrated how mammals, originally creatures of the land, could return to the sea and once again rise to dominance. Although Basilosaurus eventually went extinct, replaced by more advanced forms of whales, it left behind a powerful legacy, a reminder of a time when the oceans were ruled not by reptiles or fish, but by a giant, ferocious mammal. Among the strangest predators to have ever roamed the oceans was Helicoprion, an ancient cartilaginous fish that lived around 290 to 250 million years ago, during the late Carboniferous to early Triassic periods. Belonging to the family Helicoprionidae within the order Eugeneodontida, Helicoprion was not a shark in the modern sense, but was closely related to early chimeras, a group of ancient cartilaginous fishes. Helicoprion's most distinctive feature was its unique spiral jaw, often referred to as a tooth whorl. For decades, paleontologists struggled to interpret fossil remains, as the only parts preserved were these curious whorls of tightly packed teeth. It was eventually understood that the whorl sat within the lower jaw, functioning like a circular saw. As Helicoprion matured, new teeth would grow at the center of the spiral, pushing older teeth outward along the whorl. This evolutionary adaptation allowed the animal to continually maintain a sharp cutting edge, without losing functionality as older teeth wore down. Helicoprion was estimated to have been about 4 to 8 meters long, and possibly over 500 kilograms, about 1,100 pounds. Given its lack of a highly robust and heavy body structure compared with later sharks, Helicoprion's relatively lightweight form would make it an efficient swimmer who could make the quick and sudden bursts of speed necessary to catch prey. In terms of hunting strategy, Helicoprion likely targeted soft-bodied marine organisms such as cephalopods, many of which are ancient relatives of squid and nautiluses. The unusual jaw mechanics suggest that it worked primarily at cutting through soft tissue rather than crushing through hard shells, suggesting that the whorl could snap shut strongly in order to draw prey inward, and break apart its bones with its backward curving teeth. Some reconstructions suggest that the spiral itself rotating slightly when biting may have helped to more effectively cut and pull prey through the jaw. There are no exact measurements of its bite force because there is no complete skeleton to determine its weight. A reconstruction of the jaw using muscle attachment sites, and thus the maximum bite force, suggests that it had a powerful cutting bite. Bias estimates place its bite force between 1,200 and 1,800 pounds per square inch. This is far less than the super predatory strength of Tyrannosaurus rex, or even modern sharks of large size. But surely it was capable of snapping a bone or cutting soft prey easily. The long, narrow body of Helicoprion seems to have been adapted for hunting in open water, rather than in ambush predation upon reefs or the seabed. And it seems to have wandered through mid-level ocean waters, where it ran at great speeds to pursue prey rather than stay put. This would have required quite large swimming muscles, an ability to sense electroreception, to hear the low bioelectric fields of the prey, and excellent vision in dark marine waters. Fossils of Helicoprion have been found in most or all of the geographic regions of North America, Russia, Australia, and China. The broad range of fossils suggest that Helicopteron was a successful and adaptable predator that could survive in various marine environments, from shallow coastal waters to deeper offshore waters. The success of Helicoprion is demonstrated in the fact that Helicoprion was a successful and adaptable predator that lived for tens of millions of years and survived the Permian mass extinction event that killed much of the marine species. Although it had several unusual adaptations, Helicoprion eventually died out by the early Triassic period, when the marine environment changed drastically and new predators developed. Its disappearance marks the end of one of the most unusual experiments in vertebrate evolution, an animal that combined speed, precision, and a bizarre but highly effective weapon for survival. Today, Helicoprion remains a powerful reminder of the creativity of evolutionary forces, showing that successful predation can come in forms far stranger than anything seen in modern oceans. The ancient seas, teeming with life, were an unforgiving battlefield where survival was a brutal game of cat and mouse. In the dark, endless waters of the Mesozoic, there was no sanctuary, no safe haven. Danger lurked from every direction, whether from the crushing jaws of massive predators or the stealthy ambush of creatures designed for speed and precision. The ocean was a relentless and hostile environment. Every predator was a finely tuned killing machine, honed by the laws of nature and the ruthless demands of survival. But even the strongest can fall. For most of these ancient kings, the very waters that supported their existence became the reason of their death. Changes in climate, changes in ecosystems, and the emergence of new predators all contributed to the demise of these animals. The Ichthyosaurs disappeared as quickly as they appeared, with only fossilized remains of their swift reign. Deinosuchus also disappeared from the fossil record. The reign as the prime hunter of the late Cretaceous passed without its might. Yet they still do. Modern crocodiles, whales, and sharks are living fossils of those ancient beasts, the parents of which breed around the globe in their modern-day habitats. The powerful jaws and effective ambush tactics of the crocodile are still reminders of the force that roamed the rivers and shorelines of our ancient world. The incomparable speed of sharks recalls the supreme predator in the oceans, the Ichthyosaur. The massive power of whales recalls how great the giants that once stalked the ocean have become. Titans of the modern world. The ocean, however, still holds its secrets. Beneath its endless surface, there are still places where the unknown prowls, where the monsters of old may have never truly disappeared. The deep holds mysteries that no human eye has ever seen, and in its darkest depths, creatures more fearsome than we can imagine may still thrive. As we look to the modern world's apex predators, we cannot help but wonder, what is still lurking in the shadows of the deep? In this world of constant change, one thing remains certain. The ocean's legacy is one of survival. The monsters that once ruled the seas are gone, but the echoes of their reign live on in their descendants. And though time has passed, the sea still remembers its ancient rulers. Some monsters never really disappeared.